Hi everyone, welcome to Tribe Talks, and we have here with us today Dimple Mehta, who is a mental health practitioner who specializes in trauma and parenting. Both again very connected and very special, especially the parenting part of it, very special to me as well. And that's why I was very curious about her work, and I'm so glad that you could make it today. Thank you so much. I'm just going to jump right in. Okay, how do you think parental expectations shape a child's nervous system?
Thank you for having me, Kirtana. It's a pleasure to be here. Parental expectations shaping a child's nervous system. Just for a layman's understanding, nervous system can either be stressed or relaxed. Now, if the parent expects something from the child that the child is ready for, would that stress the child or relax the child? I would guess that most parents will agree that if the child is ready for it, the child would be relaxed.
Or it might stress them in the right way. Does that make sense? Because stress could be either way.
Even if there's a stressor that's coming, that stress can be managed by the child.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the child is ready for the expectation. But if the parent expects something from the child for which the child is not ready for, or if the expectation is not aligned with the child's authenticity, child's being, child's innate interests, then it's gonna obviously cause some sort of stress to their nervous system, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if the parent is aware of checking their own expectations and realigning it with who their child necessarily is, instead of who they wish their child to be, instead of seeing the child to be an extension of themselves or a mini version of themselves. If they can truly see their child for who they are as a whole person, doesn't matter whether the child is a 1-day-old infant or 18-year-old adult kid, as long as the parent is able to align the expectations with the authenticity of the child, it's gonna shape up the child's nervous system beautifully in a healthy manner, because the child is going to be in a relaxed state. Even if the child gets into a stressed state, it is manageable by the child. There is a problem that occurs when the parent is not able to align their expectations with who the child is. That's where the child's nervous system gets into a fight or flight mode or into a stressed mode, and if it continues to be that way, it can get into a very anxious mode, and chronic problems can come up.
And especially when they're younger, it does impact a lot of other things as well, right?
100%, because when they're younger, the child is like a clean slate. Everything that happens mostly from the parent's side basically shapes up the child's belief about themselves, belief about relationships, belief about the world, because you're writing on a clean slate.
Correct. Absolutely. And I think this makes a big impact on the child as they grow up as well as adults. That's 100%. What we end up seeing, right?
100%.
Where do you think, or how do you think parents project their unmet needs on their child?
Okay, so what are unmet needs necessarily? Broadly speaking, most of us have the need to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted, to be loved, to be appreciated, to be celebrated. And these are all vital needs as humans. All of us have them, and it's okay to have them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But somewhere, if it so happens that one of our needs are not met, we tend to expect the need to be met outside. And with parents, it so happens that they expect that need gets to be met via their kids. However, is it really the kid's job to meet
their needs,
the needs of the parent? For the parents who can check in with themselves, would find it within themselves that it's not the kid's job to meet the need of the parent. But when we are unconscious of that, we project on the kids.
Absolutely.
And then we want our kid to be, for example, you be an athlete because I couldn't be. You be a dancer because I couldn't be. Or you have to win because your win somehow
matches my identity.
Or satisfies me, or I find myself to be winning because you're winning, because I see myself as, I see you as an extension of me.
I think it's also, don't you think it's actually glamorized here a little bit? Not winning, but talking about it in terms of sacrifice. Oh my God, I've actually sacrificed so much so that you win, and that actually in turn fulfills my identity. Like that becomes my it's okay, it's good that it's a purpose, but it now actually becomes extension, and it probably even puts a lot of pressure on the athlete
When
or
any
the child.
parent starts to think about the relationship from a transactional point of view, that I have done so much for you, my child, and I have sacrificed so much for you, my
Yeah.
child, you're basically looking for a return on your investment.
Actually,
And
this
that's
is a word
so
I've heard too many
transactional.
times. ROI. What's my ROI for all of this?
So that is transactional,
Yeah.
and parenting is not a business.
Yeah.
It's a relationship. It's
Yeah.
a journey.
Yeah.
So I guess if a parent is looking
Yeah.
for something in return from the child for the efforts that they made towards the child, I would like to invite those parents to check in with themselves if they had entered into a contract with the child when they brought the child into the world.
Yeah.
That I'm bringing you into the world, so you must do A, B, C, D, E for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one question I usually ask parents when I work with them is, is this something the child asked you to do, or is this something you just naturally gave the child because you wanted to?
Yeah.
Because that question really opens that up for them, and I can imagine how the contract question also would really help them to see it. I guess it's just a direction. There is no doubt in terms of their intentions. I feel like it's more about how we have been programmed as
Conditioning, yes.
and conditioning as well.
And a lack of accountability on the parts of parents,
Yeah.
where we put the kids to kind of perform and do something
Yeah.
for us, whereas it's us as parents who need to be
to do,
accountable,
yeah.
because we made the decision to give birth to the kids.
Exactly.
We made the decisions to raise those kids.
A certain
didn't,
way.
Yeah, and they didn't ask us to give
Correct.
birth in the first
Or
place.
put them in the sport as well, for that
Yeah.
matter, or
Yeah.
even if they did, to do it a certain way. Sometimes they do ask, but not all the time.
Well, let's take this example. If a
Yeah.
child asks a parent, let's say it's a 10-year-old kid who's interested in a particular sport, and they ask the parent that, hey, I'm interested in this sport and I want to try it out, I want to pursue it. It's a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And you're a grown-up adult who's the parent of
Who can make
the
choices.
child.
Yeah.
Now, it's your choice and your decision that you're either supporting your child in exploring that path or
Not.
not.
Yeah.
The onus or the accountability is on the parent. You cannot put that burden on a 10-year-old just because the 10-year-old is expressing the interest to be interested in a particular sport.
Yeah.
The child must have the space to experiment
And explore things.
and if it doesn't work out, they must have the safety net to fall back.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be so that just because the child expressed interest to be in a sport and now they want to make a U-turn and probably not pursue it anymore, it shouldn't be a dead end, that there's no more U-turn available.
Sport, no more choices that they can make, whether it's in career or sport or wherever.
So it's not the child's fault that they wanted to explore or experiment.
Which is completely natural, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for speaking about this. I think that makes a big difference. I think there's a lot of conversation about conscious parenting that is right now. How do you think that supports resilience?
Okay, thank you for that question. Resilience in simple terms comes when we are challenged in small ways and when we are able to win through those small challenges. Could be in any space in life, physical, emotional, financial, wherever. So two aspects are very important for resilience. There must be challenge so that you stretch. There must be some discomfort. With comfort, you're not going to get resilience. So there must be some discomfort, and there must be a possibility to come across that discomfort and win through it, come towards the other end. That's where you have a new muscle built in, which is resilience, and it happens in a gradual way. How conscious parenting helps in building resilience is, as a conscious parent, you take the accountability, the responsibility to watch your own responses, reactions, triggers, behaviors. You as a parent are constantly checking how are you behaving with the child. B, you're meeting the child for whoever the child is. which for most of the day we may fail to do because we are unconscious for most of the times. We are, working as per our conditioning, the conditioning that came from the society, the conditioning that came from our families, our culture. But for the little moments where you can be conscious and you can check in with yourself, whatever you're doing, and you can meet your child for however they are, you will be able to make small shifts in your behavior, in your responses, in your reactions, because you'll be aware and you will make small changes. When you do that, you give your child some space to go through some discomfort.
I think many parents are not comfortable with that discomfort, isn't it?
Can I give an example for that?
Yeah.
A very simple example. It doesn't matter whether your child is a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old or whatever. Your child asks for an ice cream. You have a rule against sugar, which is great. You as a parent want to protect your child you want to make sure they are healthy, they are safe. Great. You say no to your child. Sorry, we are not having ice cream right now. We can have ice cream on Sunday. Your job as a parent doesn't end with just saying no for the ice cream to the child. What happens when that no is said? How does it land for the child? Is the child okay to accept that no and wait till Sunday? Or is the child feeling sad or angry that the child really wants the ice cream? Let's say the child is sad or angry about that no. How much of space are you giving as a parent to sit with them in that discomforting feeling of sadness or anger because they have been said no? How much space are you giving as a parent to the child to still share that I wanted that ice cream and it's very hard for me to wait till Sunday? You still give them the ice cream on Sunday, but you sit with them in that discomfort so that they're okay to be that sad and angry. Instead of them lashing it out somewhere because you couldn't give that space for their sadness or anger, and they take it out either with other friends or get into some games,
or probably even chooses not to share, and they think
close up, shut down, withdraw. There can be many routes that kids can choose.
Absolutely. Thank you for such a beautiful example. I think that would make a big impact, because I think they're just very unaware that maybe expressing emotions is not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, when children cry after matches when they don't win, they feel more upset about the crying than even the child does. And I think it's okay to cry. I think they should be able to express that emotion and get back out there maybe the next time, or however, that discomfort that you're talking about. I think giving that space actually matters here.
And a parent can only give that space when the parent is okay about that emotion. If the parent judges sadness or anger to be, for example, a negative emotion, they would never be able to make space for that, and they would be like, hey, don't cry.
Just don't cry.
Because it kind of makes it unsettling for me as a parent to see my child cry. But if I'm okay with sadness, I will be able to contain my child's sadness, and that is going to give the emotional muscle.
Absolutely. I think this is very closely tied in with my next question, which is, what does psychological safety look like in home?
Okay.
Yeah. It's very similar, isn't it?
It's similar,
but not the same.
Same, yes. By the end of the day, when you are done with a tiring day of work, do you ever feel like just getting back home and getting out of those clothes and getting into some nice comfortable pajamas and probably binge watching something or grabbing some comfortable snack? It's just the same for kids, except they do not have the choice and the parents choose for them. So psychological safety at home would mean that the parent creates the space for the kids that when they are home, dysregulated after a long day outside with the world, whether it's at school or sports or friends or whatever social setting that they are in, the parent creates the comfort for the child. Not just physical comfort, not just the comfort with food, but also the emotional comfort for them to come and express and share whatever it is that they are feeling, without jumping to give advices, without jumping to fix their problems. Just being there with the child and letting the child offload stuff at home.
I think that, wow, what a beautiful way to describe psychological safety at home, right? Like, I think it's the most simple form of speaking about psychological safety. Thank you so much for speaking about it. And I think this is something I keep talking about a lot, psychological safety, but I don't think I've ever articulated it this beautifully.
Thank you.
So thanks a lot for sharing that. We are going to speak and continue this conversation as well, and definitely we're going to talk about trauma, attachment, performance, which is part of our next episode. So thanks a lot for speaking about this. Thanks a lot for watching.
Thank you, Kirtana.